Okay, I think at this point you should be able to see my screen. Yeah, can you see my mouse moving around?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay. So let me, here we go. Okay, so folks, this is Don Wedding, and we are in MSDS422. And I'm very informal, so please feel free to call me Don if you're comfortable with that. But I answer to pretty much anything because I'm married and I've been called a lot worse by my wife when I forget to do the dishes. So, okay, so I guess what I'm going to do is just walk you through everything you need to know about the class. And I want to make this as interactive as possible. So please interrupt me at any time with any type of questions. I'm happy to talk about anything you guys want to talk about, whether it's the class or the program in general. So, I guess before I just get started here, does anybody have any questions about the class or anything that you would like me to address as I go through everything? I'm going to try to get you out of here early as well. So anybody got any questions? I'm hearing silence. Okay. I need a volunteer because is there a chat window here that sometimes people type things into a chat window and I can't see it when I've got my screen shared like this. Can someone keep an eye on the chat window for me? James, you sound like a guy who wants to watch the chat window. Can you do that for me?
Yes, I'll watch it.
Okay, I'm not even sure if there is a chat window. This is the first time I've used Zoom at Northwestern. I used to use Blue Jeans, so I'm learning this as I go. Okay, so let's talk about the class in general. What is this? Now, this is the first time I've taught 422. And this class 422 has had several different incarnations. It used to be a marketing analytics course, and then it sort of turned over time into into machine learning using R, and then it got moved into machine learning using Python. So it's kind of morphed around, and when the class shell was handed to me, I liked the content about it, but I didn't like the fact that it seemed a little bit disjointed. Like one week you're learning about neural networks, and the next week you're learning about principal component analysis, and the next week it's random forest, and there was no common theme that was tying anything together. So what I did was I got the class shell just recently, and I started taking and bringing in some. I used to teach a class called 411, which was generalized linear models. And I took a lot of those data sets and I'm moving them over here. And what I want to do is I want to have a common theme through the class, because if you just walk in there and somebody says, this is how you do principal component analysis, let's do that for a week and then continue, then the next week it's going to be clustering. There's no theme and you're going to be like, okay, I know how to do that. Well, who cares? Well, what I want to do is I want to have some themes to this stuff. And so I'm going to give you one data set. And this is going to be a real world data set, and it's going to be like in the real world, the data tends to fight back a little bit. So there's going to be missing values and outliers, et cetera. And you're going to build models with this. First, we're going to do some exploration of the data using Python. Then we're going to go and build some decision tree type models. Then we're going to go into regression. Then we're going to go into neural networks. And we're going to have the same data set over and over again, but we're just going to apply different techniques to it. And so that's the common theme, so that you begin to see how things, what are the strengths and weaknesses of different techniques. Then there's some of these hodgepodge techniques that don't really fit into the class. And so I've kind of got those guys down here into this grab bag, quick assignments. And I've got like, okay, here's something about data transformation. Here's something on principal component analysis, k-means clustering. I'm going to put some more stuff in here as well. So this stuff could be used on the data set we're going to work on, but it doesn't have to be. Like, for example, if you wanted to do principal components and throw that in there, that's fine. But it's sort of a standalone concept. So we're going to walk through this real quick. But before I get started, have I rambled enough that people are confused, or are you sort of following along? And that's what they call a leading question. I want everyone to say, I'm following you here, Don. But if you're not, I'd like to know.
I'm following along.
You're following along. That's good to know. Let me see. Let me look at the participant list here. Aruna Atamaram. Are you following along, or do you have any questions?
Oh, I'm following along.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so let's talk about the class in general. The class that let's start off by looking through the syllabus. Okay, so here's the syllabus, and I'll walk you through that real fast. So let me open this up. Okay, so let's start off with me. Okay, that's Don Wedding, that's me. And this is my contact. Now, I do consulting work as well as teach at Northwestern, so I may be at a customer site. So if you send me an email, you might want to send it to both of these. This would come to my cell phone and to my personal email. I'm more likely to get it here, but I'm also, I send it to both places, okay? This is my home office number right here, and this is my cell phone number. So probably call here first, and then if there's no answer, you can try my cell phone. Usually my cell phone is with me, and if I don't pick up, it's because I'm talking to somebody or there's something going on. I'll get back to you, leave a message, and I'll get back to you, either immediately after I'm done with talking to the customer, or if I can't, I'll get back to you later that day. But I'll definitely, you can leave a message. But this is how you can get in touch with me. So let me talk about that first. If you have a question, this is how you're going to want to do it. I would prefer that you post it to the discussion boards if possible, because that way I can answer the question and everybody has the benefit of the answer. However, I get it. Sometimes you say, well, gosh, I want an instantaneous answer, because you're stuck, you can't get anywhere. I get that. So if you need instantaneous answers to questions, then you can get a hold of me by phone or by email. Okay, and like I said, this is my email and that's my phone numbers. And if you send, okay, so the question is, when can you call me? Well, the answer to the question is, I'm available 24/7. Okay, so if you guys have a question or a problem and you call me up and I answer the phone, we're good, okay? I would prefer that you don't call me at 3 in the morning on a Sunday. Now, I've taught at Northwestern since 2013, and no student has ever called me at 3 in the morning on a Sunday, okay? But, and I'm hoping to keep the streak alive, okay? So we're hoping that you don't. But if you think it's an emergency and you got to talk to me and you call, if I wake up, and I sleep like a rock, so I promise you, I'll probably sleep through the call. But if I pick it up and it's 3 a.m., we're good. I mean, I'll pick it up and we'll talk, okay? Now, people say, well, Don, what's an emergency? And my answer is always the same. If it's important enough for you to call, then it's important for me, okay? So I'll answer that call. But obviously, if it can wait for reasonable hours, please do. But like I said, I'll answer it. The course description, this is how I want to run the course. The course is to try, the overall arching theme here is that when they put the course together, they want to cover some machine learning techniques, including regression, decision trees, neural networks, clustering, principal component analysis, and natural language processing, okay? These are all a bunch of disjointed concepts that I don't want to, so looking at it like this, I don't like that idea by itself, because teaching you clustering and principal components without any context is going to be meaningless. So I've added to this a little bit. So I want to teach you these concepts here, but my bigger goal is I want to give you technique on how would you solve, if somebody gave you a big, messy, ugly data set, how would you handle building a predictive model? So I want to take you through that process, and along the way, we're going to use all of these techniques. So my hope is that by the time this class is over, that you are very comfortable in the process. You may not be an expert, but you'll be comfortable in the process of building predictive models. Also, I'm hoping to improve your Python skills along the way. And then finally, I want you to be relatively familiar with all of these things. I don't realistically think you're going to walk out of here being an expert in TensorFlow neural networks. However, if you're somewhere or in another class or at work or something and your boss says, yeah, we're looking at TensorFlow neural networks, you're going to go, huh, I did a couple of those in 422. I know something about them. It's not going to be a big scary mystery for you. Instead, it's going to be, you're going to know enough that you know that you have a good foundation and you can take it from there. Okay, that's really the goal I want. I want you to be familiar enough with all of these that if somebody gave you an assignment, you could do it. So that's my goal for the class. Now, what about texts? Well, required texts are none. This is what they recommended that you have. If you want, but I'm going to teach mostly from my lectures. I've recorded a bunch of lectures and I'm going to record a bunch more. That's what I'm going to try to walk you through this stuff. Some people learn better with books. Okay, if that's something you learn with, then by all means get these books and they will be certainly very useful for you. But I also hated when I was in college when an instructor would say, oh, you've got to buy these 14 books and they would cost me like $800 and they were worthless. I don't like that. So I try to teach from my knowledge and I use other things as supplements. All of this stuff is supplemental, and if you don't have this, it's not like text. It's not like I'm going to ask any quiz questions from the book. There's not going to be any assignments from the book. These are, in my opinion, merely references. So if you don't want to buy the books, that's fine. Or maybe later on somebody in the class says, gosh, this Mueller book is really good. Then you can buy it. But you decide what's going to be useful for you. Okay. Now the class is taught in Python. Okay. And so everything will have to be done in Python. Now, you can use Jupyter notebooks if you want. Now, some projects, it might be very useful to have Jupyter notebooks, but you don't have to do that. In fact, I tend to not like to use Jupyter notebooks. I like to, when I do Python stuff, I like to do it as vanilla as possible. My reason is when I go to customer sites, like I worked at Sprint for a while, and we had a bunch of consultants in there and they were using Anaconda and Jupyter notebooks and what have you. And the IT department was like, you can use Python, but you can't use any of that other stuff because it's not been approved. So if you can't use the vanilla stuff, then, I always try to do it as vanilla and basic as possible because I can't guarantee that some of this stuff will be available at a customer site. But like I said, this stuff is like Anaconda and Jupyter notebooks and what have it. That stuff is widely used, and if you want to use it, by all means. So this is up to you. Let's see, prerequisites. This is what they say. 401 is mostly in R programming. I've not ever taught 402, but anybody in here? What's 402? What's the material in there? I'm hearing stunned silence. Somebody, James, help me out. What was in 402?
We went over CRISP and how to write papers. That's mainly what I recall out of the class.
Oh, okay.
Scientific papers.
We're gonna. So building predictive models might be a new concept for you guys.
Yes.
Okay. Well, then that's okay. Also, we have a TA for this class, Eric Organison, and he is a graduate of the program, and I'm not sure if he's on the call yet, is he? Let's see. Eric, are you on? They just assigned him to me. Nope, he's not on yet. But also, so he's not on the call yet, and his contact information will be posted shortly. If ever you need something and you can't get a hold of me and you contact Eric, whatever you need, he can do it. Like if you say something like, gosh, I need more time on this project because, you know, something came up at work or whatever, whatever Eric says goes. So if he says yes, I'm back him up. So, you know, so if you can't get a hold of me, the TA, and also Eric is extremely good at Python and building predictive models and what have you. So you can go to him for help and he can assist you. He can be especially useful in things like getting things up and running, like installing the software and what have you. Let's see, what other things can we do here?
Don, can I cut in?
Yes.
Sorry.
Yeah,
I have
go
a
ahead.
quick
What's up?
question. This is Sarah, by the way. Nice to meet you.
Sarah.
So I only used Python before for last term, I believe, the data preparation. I remember the course number, but I only used Anaconda and Jupyter Notebook. I was wondering what else there is that we could try out.
Well, what I usually, okay, Jupyter Notebooks and Anaconda are extend Python a little bit. I tend to, when I do Python, when you install Python just by itself, you come up with one of the things that it gives you is a learning environment called idle, okay? And idle is a way to write software inside of Python, okay? It's a development environment. And it's guaranteed that if you got Python, you got idle, okay? Idle is just the most basic of all development environments for Python. So I always use only idle for everything because I know that if I can go to a customer site and they have Python, I know I can have idle. But there's so many other more advanced tools out there. I just try not to use them because if I get used to using them, and then all of a sudden I go somewhere and then I don't know how to use the basic stuff. So this is just my technique. I don't want to say that you can't. And a lot of places, you know, you're not hamstringing yourself by using Anaconda and Jupyter Notebooks. They're great tools. Use them if you want to, okay? I'm just telling you there's different philosophies, and my personal philosophy is I go, you know, bare bones. You know, I try to, you know, I'm the guy that goes out and camping and I try to start the fire with 2 sticks as opposed to a match, you know, because what if you don't have a match? That kind of thing. You know, actually, that's not a good analogy because I've never been camping in my life. But if I did go camping and I wasn't afraid of spiders, I would probably, you know, use 2 sticks. Anyways, so does that answer your question, Sarah?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Okay. So here we go. So let's see what else. Let me get back to the. Oh, here it is. So. The next question is, how do you get an A in my class? Okay, that's the question everybody has. Okay, so the first assignment is worth 100 points. Second assignment, the tree-based models, is 200 points, 200 points for the regression, 200 points for the neural network. I'm going to have a bunch of grab bag assignments. Right now I've got 150 points there, but I've got 2 or 3 more I'm going to create. So there might be another 250 points right here, you know, in this. I've got some quizzes at the end of each unit. They're worth, I've got at least 50 points there. I'll probably have another, you know, 25. There might be as many as 100 points there. Discussion points, I'm going to try to get you 50 points there. And there's a final exam, 100 points. And also, you can earn bonus points in my class. And we'll talk about that as well. I'm a big fan of bonus points. Now, how do you get an A? You start collecting points. And if you get 930 points in my class, that's an A. It's not percentages, it's 930 points. So you cobble them together any way you want. Now, when I taught Predict 411, I had bonus points, and I would give students bonus points. Like Predict 411, when I taught that was generalized linear models, and it was taught using SAS. And I would give students bonus points. I would say, hey, listen, this is how you do the project in SAS. If you turn around and do it in R, I'll give you bonus points so that you can learn the strength of R and the strength of SAS. Oh, if you want to do it in Python, I'll give you bonus points for that. And so students started doing the assignments in R, Python, and SAS, and they started cobbling together more and more points. And it would get to the point where students would leave my class, you know, they would try so many different things, and I was giving them bonus points for trying different techniques. And I mean, I don't give you bonus points for, you know, making toast and a peanut butter sandwich or whatever. I'm not going to give you points for that. I mean, but I give bonus points for real work. I mean, if you try something, you know, push the envelope a little bit, try something else, bring in a different technique, whatever it is, I'll give you some points for that. And I would have students, you know, with 930 points get you an A. I would sometimes have students leave my class with 1,600 points, 1,700 points. They would really, and of course, these are the students when I taught my capstone course that would just knock the ball out of the park and make the Hall of Fame. I would have, in my capstone course, I've got Hall of Fame, which is my best projects ever. And, you know, students who really push themselves. So you could conceivably grab 930 points and then go to sleep. I think that would be a poor use of your time and money, but, you know, I push yourself and keep learning more and more stuff, because this is going to come back to help you later on. But, you know, this is how you get an A in my class. Let's see. What else? Assignments are due. Here's the, you know, July 5th is Unit 1 stuff is due. July 19th, Unit 2, et cetera, et cetera. Let's see, what else? I'm not sure. I may have some sync sessions in the quarter. I'm not sure at this point, since this is the first time I've taught it. I'm not sure how I'm going to organize that, because I've got so many videos out there. It may not be necessary, but hey, and also the fact that you can call me at any time, but I might still have them. I'm not sure how to do that, and I'm open to suggestions as to how you guys want to do it. Maybe office hours, like where you guys can log in with questions about how to write code or something. You know, that I'm thinking about making it more informal. So this is the syllabus. Does anybody have any questions? And we'll go through a few things. I'm hearing some silence here. Somebody's got to ask me a question. Otherwise, I'm going to draft.
I do
This
have
is
one
Aruna.
question. Oh.
Okay, who's that?
Go ahead.
My name's Ryan. I just had one question about using vanilla Python. Are you just going to do you utilize like a virtual environment, or how do you do all the package management? Oh,
how do I do it? I don't use virtual environment. I like everything. I'm an old guy. Okay, I like it all on my laptop, but you could use a virtual environment if you can get your code and your output. How do I do it? I just install Python on my laptop. You know, it's done. You know, here it is right there. Well, this is idle, which is the Python environment. And if I want to bring a package in, you know, I would do pip install, I don't know, pandas or NumPy or something, you know, something like that. Now, if you guys are Anaconda has a slightly different command. I can't think of it off the top of my head, but that's how I do it. What is it?
It's conda install. It's almost exactly the same.
Oh yeah, conda install. That's what it is.
Yeah.
So
okay.
That's
yeah. That makes sense. I guess I was asking because, like, if you were saying about like IT administrators at other companies having like you know, not letting you install certain things, I wasn't sure if package management would be a part of that or not.
Usually when you go to an IT department, it depends. Some of them don't care. It's like the Wild West, okay? And then other times they're like, they won't let you, and you know, they're like, well, we're going to let you install pandas, but we're not going to let you install, you know, Scikit. And you're like, well, how the heck am I supposed to do anything? You know, and they're like, well, because the IT guy doesn't understand any what Python can do. They just have a checklist of what they're allowed, and they don't deviate from it. So there's sometimes because they're afraid of you installing something that's going to, like, you know, a bunch of ransomware or something. That's what they're afraid of. So
right, that makes sense.
You know, so that's just, I try to keep my stuff as vanilla as possible for that reason. But again, you know, I'm overly conservative when it comes to this stuff.
That makes
So
sense.
let's
Thank you.
see. Okay, somebody else had a question. I heard a young lady's voice.
Yes. So I had a question about the shell, the Canvas shell itself. You only have one unit up right now. Would you be opening up the rest of the units?
There, I just opened up trees for you.
Okay.
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 The reason why I didn't have trees open is because I don't have a good discussion question for you yet. And I don't have a good discussion question for regression, but I'll open it. How about that? And right now, the neural network stuff, I'm redoing all of the neural network assignments that was originally there. I wanted to redo them. So, you know, I'm writing these videos as we go. I'm building the car as we drive. Okay.
Perfect.
But you guys
I have
aren't
one
supposed
more
to know
question.
that. I wanted to give the illusion to you students that everything was ready to go.
Sure. My next question, Professor, is so I took your 401, and in that you gave us the bonus assignments, and when we completed our assignments, you had it up there, there was one with TensorFlow and the programming languages to learn, the instructions. You had all of our assignments up there. So when we're doing our assignments, end of the assignments, would you have you know, maybe the best work, you know, the code up there for us to, you know, get a reference of, like, I don't know, SAS.
Yep. Well,
So
we're gonna. That's a good question, and we're about to get in there. Okay. So what we're going to do is this. So let's talk about, let's say, data prep. Okay. So this is how the class, you know. So this will be the first unit right here. Okay. So how does that work? Well, so everything under instructor resources, if you click on this guy right here, lectures, you'll notice that I have a bunch of, these are links to lectures that I put together using Screencast-O-Matic. And if you click on this guy, you know, my first couple, I was still learning Screencast-O-Matic, so it was zoomed in for the first 2 or 3 of these things. It's a little irritating, and I'll probably go back and re-record them at some point, but it's still usable. But just, you know, understand that after the first 2 or 3, it'll be normal. But so I've got like a lecture on, and I walk through step by step. Okay. And also I have the code, so you can download the code. And this is how to read data into, you know, this is like, you know, how do you read the data in and how you do the exploratory data analysis. And I've got a data set, you know, we've got the data set here and the data dictionary. You can download those guys. This is a lecture. This is the code I use. Then how do I, missing value imputation. Okay. That's how do you fix the missing values? Because guess what? Somebody was asking about mathematical knowledge. Okay. Mathematics is only really important if you are a statistician. Okay. Now, I don't want to say it's not important because, you know, someone's going to take that out of context. It's not that it's not important, but a pure statistics person, the way to think about it is this. Statistics is to data science, which is what we're doing, data science. So statistics is to data science as boxing is to a back alley street fight. Okay. We are analytic street brawlers. Okay. There's no rules here. The rule here is you got to get a good model. It's got to make sense and it's got to make money. That's how you're going to, that's your career. If you're doing drug studies or you're doing some kind of, something, you know, in science, some rigorous scientific study, then your statistician and all that math stuff becomes more important. And you should know that stuff. But what we do is we're going to be, you know, you're going to get a data set that's just going to be really ugly stuff with missing values and outliers and all that stuff. And you're going to take that data set and somebody's going to say, okay, which of these customers is about to crash their car and what's it going to cost me? And you got to cobble together a model that's going to make sense to your boss and that they can use So that's what we're going to be going about in this class. So I've got all the code here, and then after I have all my lectures.
Hey, Professor, real quick question.
Go ahead.
I downloaded the files before the class, and it looked like
Okay.
The 2A, like 1A and 2A, were the same
Okay.
code file. Is it that same code file for both of those kind of lectures?
Yeah, I think so. I think it is the same because this is 2A and 2A1 and 2A2. I think it's the same one. If it turns out that it's not, then let me know. But I'm pretty sure my memory says to me that these are the same file because this is just a continuation of this guy. You're guys gonna figure out real fast. I like to talk. So sometimes these things start going on at like 20 and 30, 40, 50 minutes, and you're thinking, Don, you could have said this in 30 seconds, but I like to talk, you know? So listen to my stuff at double speed and you'll be happy. And also the thing is, I sometimes start breaking them down because otherwise you're gonna, get bored. So that's probably what's going on there.
Yeah, this is John. I started playing through. This is John. I started playing through that one, and it's a continuation. So the 2B is a continuation of that one. It covers the last part of that same code file.
Okay.
Nice.
So then I also have gone out there, and if I kind of poke around on the internet and try to find stuff that's really simple and short, for example, exploratory data analysis in Python. I mean, so something like this is, not all that long of a, this is an ad here, but like this is relatively short. But anyways, if I found something good, and this is to use Jupyter Notebooks for EDA, I thought, okay, if this is good and it's giving a different perspective of what I'm doing, I'm trying to not make it so you guys are just out there on YouTube watching YouTube, because you could have done that for free. I'm trying to give you my experience. But if I found something out there, I posted a video or a link or something like that as supplemental material. But that's all this is stuff that I find that I kind of liked. Okay. And if you find something really cool, send me the link and I'll include it either this quarter or when I teach the class again, because this is going to be a work in progress for a while. So this is where all the material is. This is supplemental stuff that I find that might be useful to you. And here's the assignment, okay? So this is worth 100 points. Now this is the data set. Now, throughout the course, I'm working with a data set that's in auto insurance. It's who's gonna crash their car and what's it gonna cost me, okay? This is a slightly easier data set, home equity line of credit, and this is who's gonna default on a loan and what's it gonna cost you. So it's the same problem. There's two things you got to solve. What's it going to cost me? And is the guy going to do something? So that's 99% of what you do in a real world situation is going to ask those two questions. Who's going to leave? What's it going to cost me? Who's going to buy something? How much are they going to spend? That's the kind of thing that you're going to ask. So this is the question. And then I simply give you some assignments. I say, okay, download this thing, read it in, graph it, fix the problems, and then hand it in. And then I go, oh, by the way, if you redo it in R, I'll give you 10 points. If you do it in SAS, I'll give you 10. Do it in Ruby, do it in something else. Just keep, whatever you want to learn. I don't recommend Ruby. I would say SAS would be the most exotic language I would try. But R is probably the smartest one. You should walk out of here, this program, being an expert in R and Python. I would highly recommend doing this. Also, if you could think of something else, try it. I'll probably give you some points for it. That's, I want you to be inspired to push the envelope in this class. So if you could think of something, try it. And then all I can say is at the end, when you hand in, at the very end of your assignment, clearly label that you've got some bingo bonus work. Okay? If I don't see it, I can't give you the points. Okay? And you know, and I don't want you coming back 3 weeks later and saying, Don, you missed this. I should be getting more points. I want you to tell me now, because, you know, I'm going to be grading this stuff. You know, there's going to be tons of stuff coming in, and I don't have time to go back and start, you know, giving you points here and there. It's sort of all sales are final, you know, just get it, tell me where it is. You know, so that's basically, you know, everything. So this would be week 1. Okay. So then what do we do in week 2? Well, for unit 2, we're going to go over here and we're going to use the exact same data set. And over here, you've already fixed the missing values and all that stuff. Now we're going to build some decision trees. Okay, so we're going to go through there and we're going to build some decision trees, and I'm going to talk all about decision trees. What are they and why do you want to do them? How do you know if they're any good and all that stuff? And then random forests. Random forests are just decision trees on steroids. Gradient boosting, decision trees on steroids. I show you how to do those. Why are we doing decision trees? Because decision trees are the simplest types of models. So I want you to start there. Then, after we get our decision trees, we do regression, then we go to neural networks, and then, you know, that'll be the end of the class is neural networks. However, that's not enough points to get any, you know, to get your A, so you're going to have to come down here into the grab bag and pull out some stuff here. Principal component analysis, clustering. I highly recommend learning clustering, guys. That's a great skill to have. I'm going to do some natural language processing, which is another one that you really have to have. There's going to be all sorts of stuff down here. I recommend racing through these assignments as quickly as you can and try to do every single one of these things. I mean, you'll end up with 1,500 points, but guess what? You're also going to walk out of here being, you know, way far ahead of your fellow students who didn't take this class, because you're going to be like when you're in the capstone and somebody goes, gee, maybe we should do some clustering. I wish I knew how to do it. And you're like, hey, I did that back in 422. It's really easy. And so that's kind of where I want to take the class. I want you to really have a good foundation of everything. So I guess that's about all I got here. Does anybody have it? One other thing. When I got the class, I had a bunch of these links that were put out there, and I'm looking through them, and some of them just seem like they're dead links. Because look, I mean, this one here is from 2015 or 2017. I'm sorry, that's 3 years ago. So I haven't had a time to go through these things and see which one of these are relevant and which ones are pointless, etc. So if you are going through any of these links and you find something and you think, Don, this is crazy, would you please get rid of this? Please tell me so I can, you know, I'm like I said, I'm fixing the boat as it's sailing. So anything you can do to help me, or if you find a really good website, send it my way so I can put it down here as a resource for students. So, you know, I'd be very, very appreciative of this. The final exam is, has to be proctored because that's one of the requirements. Here, 1 second here. 1 second. Okay, so there is a proctored final exam. You use it in an Examity, and I'll open this thing up, I think like 2 weeks before the last day of class. I'm not a big fan of proctored exams, but some of the classes have to have them in order for us to keep our accreditation. So it's not that we are trying to make your life miserable. It's just mostly for accreditation purposes. If we don't have a certain amount of proctored exams, then we lose our accreditation. Does that make sense? But I'm going to try to make this as, when I'm setting up the Examity stuff, I'm going to try to make it as pleasant as possible for you. You know, it's not going to be this draconian thing like you can't go and, you know, use the restroom if you need to or something like that. I try to be reasonable. So anyways, that's all I got. So I'm going to open up questions for anybody who might have some. Eric Latt, you look like a guy with a question. You haven't asked anything, so I'm going to draft you.
Oh yeah, I actually had a question about the final. Hopefully it's not too early to ask about that though. But no, I was just wondering if you have any additional details regarding the final at this point, as far as what kind of, is it strictly going to be a programming, or maybe a mixture of multiple choice questions, whether there are notes allowed or not?
Yeah, all the questions in this class are going to be multiple choice, and they're going to be on concepts. So it's going to be something like, I might ask you a question like, and most of them are going to come right out of my lectures. So as I'm talking to you about decision trees, when I do the lecture on decision trees, I go, hey, listen, I'm starting off with decision trees because decision trees are really robust. If I've got outliers or I've got, weird distributions, the decision tree can handle it. And then I might ask you a question that says, hey, decision trees are really, if you've got outliers, decision trees are bad. Well, false. I just told you that they're good. So it's those kind of questions. So just listen, and even if you're going to do enough work on these things that you're going to know the answers just because you've worked with decision trees and random forests and things of that nature. Does that make sense?
It does. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. And incidentally, I'm not a big fan of trying to trick you into getting wrong answers. I want you to learn the material. I want you to get really good at building these predictive models so that you can have a career in this. So I'm going to, try to focus on the concepts that I think are necessary for you. So let me see, I'm putting the Zoom meeting for my next class in here in the discussion board in 1 second here. So anyway, does that answers your questions, right? At least I hope it does.
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
Okay. Now, if anybody is curious about what the capstone course is, that's going to be Predict 498. That's the last class on the way out the door. In exactly 12 minutes, I'm going to have another Zoom meeting, and I'm going to talk to those guys. You guys are more than welcome to sit in on those things and listen and see if you don't know where you're going, then any road's going to take you there. So if you know what the class is going to be like at the end, it might help you figure out what you want to study as you go through the program. So I'm pretty sure this link here should be good enough. I'm still got my head wrapped around blue jeans, and I'm still learning the Zoom stuff. So if this link should take you guys there, right? Well, we're going to hope at any rate. If you can't get in, email me and I'll get you in there fast. So,
yeah, that'd be really helpful for the first time to join.
Thank you for sharing this and inviting us.
Is anybody any final questions, thoughts?
I got another one for you, Professor. In my role now, I do some decision trees, and I leverage like RPart in R, but I try to put it up in Python using the graph viz after doing some Googling, and I was stopped by the company's firewall. So have you ever experienced that? And is there ways to get around that?
Well, okay, let me ask you this question is, can you get, and this is what I do in the class, is I don't use Python's graph viz. Instead, I create the graph viz file. In fact, I'll even show you guys. Let me share my screen real fast. Share screen here. Can you guys see my screen again?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so let's see. Insurance. Okay, so one of the things I do is, here's my decision tree lecture. So one of the things that you do is, let me see where the heck I got my graph viz file here, split the data. Okay, so where did it go? Here it is. You export the graph viz file. Okay, did you export the graph viz file, or did you try to build your graph viz file directly inside of Python, or did you export an ASCII file like this?
No, I think there's actually I tried to install import graph viz, something like that.
Yeah, and let me guess, it didn't work.
Yeah,
And
I get
the reason why is because the graph viz stuff in Python, in my not so humble opinion, isn't all that good. So instead, this is what I teach you, is how it's done, at least in everywhere I am at. I'm trying to show you real world stuff. So I've got over here, you export a graph viz ASCII file like this.
Oh, wow.
Okay. So now what do you do with this? Okay, well, I've got two ways to do it. One way to do it is I said, hey, look, guys, in fact, I even give you the file to download. I'm like, okay, here, this is a free file you can download, and you can actually go out here and copy and paste that stuff right here, and voila.
Oh, nice.
Wait a minute, where did it go? Let me do that again. Run. Here it is.
Yep.
And there it is. There's your treat. And heck, if that doesn't work, I got something else for you. Graph Viz Online Free. I think this is it. Control A, Control V, and generate the graph. So this is a free website that will do that for you. Here it is. Look at that. Look at that. Tell me, that's as easy as falling in love. You can't beat that one, can you? Okay. So that's kind of, I mean, those are the kind of things I try to show you, is some kind of a real world, how it's done. It's the focus is not, if I start running into roadblocks, like for example, when I'm doing Python, stuff that I ran into roadblocks, I've worked around it over the years. I'm trying to show you I don't have all the answers, but I know stuff that's not going to work. So I'm going to try to prevent you from hitting your head against the wall. I want to give you the stuff that that's not going to work. I have something that might work for you, but I know this isn't going to work. So I'm trying to at least share knowledge like that so that you don't have to, waste your life, trying to figure this out.